Good evening, good afternoon, good day. Welcome to the three-part series from the accounting program. We have Dr. Stevens on today, and she will be going over the last part of the three-part series today, and we'll be talking about the CMA certification and what that exam entails. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her and she's going to give us a wonderful presentation. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and I will definitely read them out for her as she goes along. All righty, welcome. Hello, Dr. Stevens. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rashida. And thank you for joining our third part of our accounting series, Career Paths in Accounting. Just as a brief overview, the first session that we had was really just general, discussing accounting degrees in kind of general terms. Our last session was focused on those who wished to pursue a CPA exam and go into public accounting. And this series is focused on those who would like to be in private accounting and potentially pursue the CMA certification. So if you've been able to attend or watch the first two series, this third one, just kind of culminates the ending of all of the career paths that you can choose in accounting. So I hope you've enjoyed those so far, and without further ado, I will get on to tonight's presentation. So again, this will be looking at the CMA exam. I'm a big proponent of certifications. I think obtaining degrees are certainly on the top of the list. So if you are planning any career path in accounting, my recommendation is, if your undergrad is in accounting, that's great. If it's in business, but if it's not, that there is opportunity to obtain higher level degrees, like a master's degree in accounting. And once you have that kind of formal education, I think the next step to bring yourself to an even further point in your career would be to obtain certification. So this certification, the CMA, is one that necessarily say it's up and coming because it's been around for a long time. But I would say, I remember when I went through college, it wasn't something that was talked about as much as the CPA exam. And the fact is that, and we'll see some slides that allude to this, 75% of accountants are working in the private accounting sector. So 75% of accountants are working in private accounting. So this certification really is tailored for those who are working in private accounting. So we're seeing more and more people obtaining this certification as that additional credentialing. So there we go. So what I'd like to talk today about is the careers in management accounting. What is the IMA? Gain an edge with the CMA, and how to become a CMA. As Rashida had mentioned, there will be question and answer at the end, but feel free to pop questions in the chat. I know Rashida's monitoring that. So if there is something, if there's a slide that you really in the moment would like more clarification on, please feel free to write it right in the chat and I can address it throughout the presentation. So when we think about management accounting, or you'll hear me often refer to it as private accounting. It was always just the terminology that I've used through the years, kind of public accounting versus private accounting. I have learned that others refer to it as management accounting versus public accounting. You might hear corporate accounting versus public accounting, and it's not versus like one's better than the other. It doesn't mean that. It's just there are really big differences in these career paths. So if you want to know more about public accounting and did not attend our series 2 of this career paths in accounting, we do have archived videos on our website where I do go into a lot of detail discussing public accounting. So I'm not going to discuss anything on that front. I really want to focus on the management accounting side. And when we think about management accounting, these are the internal accountants, right? They're working for the company, the accountants for a company that are internal. There are a lot of different stages, if you will, of where you can be in the process of management accounting. You could be on, developing, where maybe you're developing a budget, implementing, you're actually working maybe more in cost accounting and implementing cost changes. Managing could be, looking at budgets to actuals and trying to manage using the internal financial statements to manage day-to-day operations. And you could be on the reporting side where you're really focused on issuing those financial statements and making kind of the journal entries and all of that. So I'll get into that in a bit more detail. But overall, the management accountants help to create value rather than simply measure it. And some people will say on this public accounting side that, the work is almost, it's already done. If you're working in audit, you're really just going in and checking it to make sure that it is in compliance with the standards, which there's clearly benefit to that as well. But, the internal management accountants are really, doing the day-to-day operations, running the company, making sure that the company is profitable and solvent and, again, able to pay bills, collect bills, and so on. That would all fall under the purview of somebody who is a management accountant, a corporate accountant, and private accounting. So when you think about the different roles, and I think for those of you who are watching this accounting series, these are the type of positions that I would want you to kind of have aspirations for. When you do search on job searches for accounting positions, there are a lot of different types of accounting work that people may consider under the accounting department or the finance department. But typically these titles, right, finance manager, a VP of finance, controller, a forensic financial officer, chief financial officer, these are typically the higher level accounting positions that from, let's say, my master's level students, so I'm director of the MSA program at Bay Path, these are the type of positions that my students are typically trying to either get to or are close to being, and some are already in these positions. So when we think about these key words, these are what I consider, those high level accountants. When again, you have a master's degree in accounting, you're obtaining these high level, well-known certifications like the CMA. These are the type of positions that you really should be focused on. And, if you don't have the accounting experience yet, you may be a new graduate. You don't typically jump right into a CFO position. There is certainly, growth and development that needs to take place before you can be VP of finance, of course. But when you obtain master's level in accounting, these certifications, this is the goal. So when you start seeing, staff accountant, accounts receivable clerk, accounts payable, those type of positions may need to be the stepping stones that you take to get the experience. And that may require you to, be in certain positions for, just not significantly long periods of time. And depending on how your company works, it's unknown when these positions may open for growth opportunities. So what I, again, typically see with students, new grads, would be they do have to start in some of those entry-level positions to gain the experience. And while they're doing that, they're obtaining master's level degrees in accounting. They're working on certifications like the CMA. to really get themselves in a differentiating place where you're gaining the work experience, because as many certificates and as much education as you have without that work experience to get into these positions would be very difficult. So when we think about what these positions do, most people are very familiar with CFO, right? We think about CEO as kind of the president of the company, making the executive decisions. The CFO is the person who is responsible for financial solvency, financial strength, financial decision making. So when I think about really VP of Finance and CFO, I think that often we can use those in a more interchangeable type of way. I think when I see an organization who has a VP of Finance, typically you don't see kind of a CFO title too, and vice versa, where the ones going across horizontally, finance manager, controller, I've seen those terms kind of used a bit interchangeably as well. So it really depends on the job description when you are looking for these type of careers and titles and job responsibilities. Quite frankly, I have seen a CFO title for somebody who for a position that really, in my opinion, is much more of a controller of an assistant type controller. So again, it depends on the size of the organization. To become, VP of Finance for Bay State Hospital is going to be a lot different than being VP of Finance for a small nonprofit organization. So the titles don't always represent exactly what the job responsibilities are. But again, not to be repetitive, these are kind of the keywords in searches that you may want to see what credentials these organizations are looking for that are hiring for these type of positions. But some of the buzzwords for what these positions do, planning for the long term, right? Sure, there's day-to-day operations that need to take place, but in order to stay in business, it really becomes these type of positions that need to plan those strategic plans, and we look at the budgeting and forecasting for the future, right? That it's not just getting through the month, it's really thinking about, a yearly budget, a even 3 to 5 year plan. What do we want this company to look like in the future? And that's all done by these accountants. When we think about the VP of Finance and CFO, and these to me are the highest, generally the highest level of kind of accounting positions that we see. Interestingly, we see VP of Finance a lot of times, or finance manager. A lot of people might think that your degree should be in finance. And this is not untrue. I mean, having a background in finance, definitely you have a business background, you understand, kind of capital budgeting usually and things like that. But I would just kind of caution you that degrees in finance can kind of go in different directions, where if you obtain a degree in finance, which is more focused on, let's say, stock market trading and financial planning or forecasting in terms of stock market, that wouldn't really suit you well to be in these type of corporate accounting positions. But I have had students express kind of uncertainty about finance degrees versus accounting degrees. The accounting path, right, is pretty specific in terms of if you're going into public accounting or private accounting, and the finance path should be a little bit more specific if you're going into more corporate accounting, which those degrees will have a lot of accounting classes. I will say our Master's of Science in Accounting at Bay Path does have a concentration in finance, and it is particularly to fit these roles, right? Because at Bay Pass, we understand that there is a fine line between accounting and finance. A lot of those responsibilities overlap each other. So the MSA program at Bay Path, you get your core accounting, and then you also have a concentration in finance, which is specific to this kind of corporate finance. So this can be confusing, and the confusion is really, I think, because a controller at one company may have different responsibilities as a controller in another company, and right across the board with these positions. So when you are looking, read the job descriptions. You should be able to tell, especially with the salaries that these positions are paying, kind of what level position it's in. So the really cool thing about accounting is that accountants are everywhere in these internal companies, right? So every company needs an accountant in some capacity. So when we're looking at private firms, these would typically be firms that or companies that are not on the stock market traded. There should actually be a square here for public companies. So companies that are traded on the stock market. So when I think about corporations, I think about private companies or public companies, not to be confused with private and public accounting. When we think about companies, a private company would usually be owned by individuals that aren't selling shares of stock to outside investors in a public market, right? You could have a number of investors in a private company, but like I couldn't go in and just buy stock from a private company. Whereas the public companies, they would be the companies that you could buy stock for. So the Amazons and the Starbucks and Apple, right, where you can go in and actually buy stock as a general public. The public accounting companies, or the public accounting, the public companies where you can buy stock from, typically have higher level accountants because there's a lot of regulation that goes along with those roles. There's usually a lot of opportunity for growth in those companies because the accounting and reporting is really needs to be very strong because of all the compliance for public companies. We have government organizations, so municipalities. I've had a number of students who are working for various towns and cities. I think that these jobs are wonderful because they come with great benefits, right? So nice pensions and things. They typically may not pay as well as the public companies or even some of the larger private companies, but sometimes the benefits outweigh that. The multinational corporations, again, this could get into thinking about, is it a public company or a private company? But when we think about multinational, that you have subsidiaries overseas or different segments of the business and so on. So again, the complexities that come along with corporations that have operations not just in the United States, again, bring on a lot of different accounting challenges and needs that high-level accountants really need to have very strong academic and experience and credentialing backgrounds. Academic institutions, so any school still has accountants. When we think about Bay Path University, we've got a very strong accounting department, and I will say that they do a wonderful job in terms of conservative budgeting and the financial reporting kind of that you really want to see strong organizations have. And even though Bay Path is a small private university, the people who are in the accounting department are strong accountants, and they're helping the university make good business decisions that, again, lead to the longevity of an organization. Nonprofit organizations, the same type of thing. You think about any type of nonprofit, that has a mission base. Well, at the end of the day, it's still a business, and it needs to be run accordingly, with business decisions being made based on financial information. So again, I started this saying, it's kind of cool because you are able to decide which industry, which area you want to go into, what is a better fit for your personality. Do you want to be at a smaller organization? Do you want to be at large multinational companies? Do you want to be working for a mission-based organization, or for the government? There are just so many opportunities for accountants that if you are currently looking for a job and you do job searches, you will see these positions listed. And that is part of, not even part of, I'd say it's the main reason why I am so passionate about these type of degrees, particularly the Master's of Science in Accounting, and advocating for these credentials like the CMA or the CPA, because the jobs are there. We hear a lot about universities and degrees that may not be worth it in the end, in terms of the type of jobs that you can get and the salaries that you will make. And people, may question the value of an education in that sense of, where does it lead to a job? And there's such a direct line between obtaining higher levels of education and additional certifications with higher level jobs in accounting, that, again, that is my passion, to be able to help students get to those goals of these big level positions in these companies. So, and then, the next step, really aligning your interests and kind of areas that you want to be comfortable working, and of course, make a lot of money doing it. So here is my slide reference that I was saying that when I was going through college, there was so much focus on public accounting. That was where, it was just, that's where you needed to go when you graduate. And I really never even knew or considered initially these internal accounting positions, or these additional credentials that, as you can see here, 75% of people who are working in accounting and finance are in. So the value of understanding that, and I'll walk through the CMA in a little bit and what that entails. Again, the majority of accountants are working in this management accounting setting for those type of organizations and companies in different industries that I was just speaking about. So here are some of the companies, some well-known names. Again, you could choose any single company anywhere, and there will be some level of accountant at that company. So, again, the better known companies, a lot of these have stocks associated with them. So most of these, not the CIA, right? That's getting into more government accounting, but these positions, I think almost all of them are publicly traded. So, again, the complexities that come along with being the accountant for Disney, where we're thinking it's, princesses and rides and entertainment, the complexities are significant. And again, being on the stock market and exchanging securities, the need to have accountants producing financial statements that investors can depend on become a significant regulation type industry, where those financial statements that these companies produce are rock solid, right? Because they have to be. People are relying on them in order to invest their money in these companies. So again, kind of just interesting to think about. So here are some people that, just to kind of share what their responsibilities are. We have Fatima, who has her CMA, right? So she's a certified managerial accountant, and she is working for Jaguar Land Rover as a financial leader and doing big data analytics. So her job is to make the financial decisions for different countries, because this is a multinational organization, and for different products. So we think about, these different vehicles being different product lines for this organization, and then, three, at least, what she's working on, 3 different countries that they're making financial decisions over. So, that's kind of cool when you think about using data analytics now as a big tool for helping accountants make these decisions. And data analytics is a piece that has really, really emerged in the accounting field. And whether you're going into public accounting or private accounting, the ability to work on big data or any data and be able to manipulate that data to make decisions has become not just something that is a nice kind of skill to have, it's becoming really required. And organizations are expecting students to be coming into these jobs being able to handle big Excel sheets, using some of the software to manipulate big data, especially if you're working for, a company like Fatima works at, where you're dealing with multinational, publicly traded, high level sales. So it's a lot of data that needs to be interpreted, and her skill set as a CMA allows her to do this. We have Adam, who is an auditor. So this is public accounting. So Fatima is a private accountant. Adam is public accountant, but what I found interesting about him is he not only has a CPA, which is really required if you're working in public accounting to get into any level position above really this audit senior. But he also went on to pursue the CMA and has found the complementary piece in both, where we can see his quotes here: adding tremendous value to me and my ability to serve clients in public accounting. Everybody has a CPA, and that's true. But having the CMA in addition to the CPA is a distinguishing piece. So, I mean, that's just kind of proof and clarity that, not to say, you have to have the entire alphabet soup after your name of credentials, but not only, is the public accounting kind of recognized as almost required, right? If you're going to be in public accounting, that really is the expectation that you're going on for the CPA. But having the CMA almost allows Adam to connect with the clients a little bit more, right? Because they're dealing with the managerial accounting side of issues, and to be having that credential too, understanding the managerial accounting side of accounting, not just the public accounting, which gets into, making sure the financials are presented in accordance with GAAP, and that, we're following all of our generally accepted auditing standards and so on, which are crucial for a CPA working in audit. CMAs, again, because they're so driven for those who are working in private accounting, I mean, this is very interesting. And I will say, during my time in public accounting, I don't think I knew any CPAs who also had their CMA. And I will say, over the last 5-10 years, I have seen this CMA CPA happening more often. And I find that really interesting because, as I said, the CMA wasn't mentioned when I was in college. And now we're really seeing universities talking about it more, understanding the value that it has to those who want to go into private accounting, and also the complementary nature that it does have to the CPA. So I thought that was really interesting to share. So what is the IMA? So these slides are really driven by the IMA. I'm not paid by the IMA. I'm a Bay Path employee. This is just, you know, IMA is the Institute of Managerial Accountants. So it is really kind of the highest level organization for CMAs. So in CPAs have, you know, the American Institute of CPAs. We have the each state has their own society of CPAs, where the IMA, you know, I kind of, if we're making comparisons to public accounting, I'd say is more equivalent to the American Institute of CPAs. So again, very high level. They're the group who puts together, if you will, the CMA. It's a global network. We see, and actually what I was thinking about today, and I didn't, whoops, sorry, I didn't have the, couldn't find the information readily, but I was actually wanting to do a comparison to see through the years how this network has grown, because I do think that this continues to be a growing certification, that again, the value of it is becoming more and more recognized as a leader in the industry for private accountants. So I thought I don't have the information to share, but so I can't even kind of guess what this would have been, let's say 10 years ago. But I think it's safe to say that it was, if not significantly lower, a lot lower. They do accept student members into the organization. So I think if you are currently a student, I think having this network, so you wouldn't obviously be a CMA yet, but you would be a student member in with the Institute of Managerial Accountants. You can be a professional member as well. But they offer, and I'll share those slides in a minute, a lot of various incentives and opportunities if you are a student member. So I always encourage my students, and you'll see the cost for membership is, I think it's like $35. And then you start to form this network, and depending on where you're located, they do have various events. Bay Path has hosted a couple of IMA workshops for CMAs, right? So they come to Bay Path and it's hosted, or we host the event. The IMA group comes in and they've done various workshops for people and students. So, I mean, the best thing is networking with all these people. I've met so many different people through these networking events, and the people who are going are typically in those positions that I've referred to before, you know, in those CFO, controller, VP of finance type positions, who are also CMAs. And if you're a student and you can start networking with that level of person, even just getting their business card and making that connection just starts to create that network that is so important. And I will say, even with high level degree, you know, master's of science in accounting, having the CMA, having work experience, the next piece is really the networking piece. And if the goal is to get into those high level positions, the bigger your network is, the more likely it is that you will find yourself in those higher level positions. And I can say from my own experience being involved with the IMA, there's significant networking opportunities to get to know those people in those key positions at various organizations in the region, right? So they have regional chapters. So, you don't, if you're living in Massachusetts, you don't have to, fly to California to attend some of these networking events. They're having regional meetings and really love to have students attend. So keep that in mind. And even if you're not a student, if you are a working professional right now, you can join the IMA as a business professional. And again, it just opens the door to so many different opportunities in terms of networking and also knowing what's going on in the industry. So another big piece is when you become part of the IMA, you're able to, you end up on their email and they send big updates. So a lot of information that I get to remain current in the field comes from the IMA, that they're on their emails they're sending out when there's been, a change in something that is pertinent to the accounting field. So lots of benefits. Here are some additional benefits to be a student member. Right, we talked about the networking, student leadership conferences. They have, they offer a lot of scholarships, and I have a slide that will talk about some of the scholarships that they offer. There's a reduction of the membership fee being a student, and if you are a student member, it reduces the overall fees on the CMA exam. And then you get, this leadership experience that can't always come from some of those more entry-level positions that you need in order to gain experience in the accounting field. But if you are in some of those positions and your ultimate goal is to be in those upper level positions, joining an organization like this, I can guarantee will help in that process if you are active. So joining is not enough, right? You can't just pay the membership and then forget about it. This is, the more involved you are, the better the outcome. So we have in Massachusetts, it's the Northeast Council. And I'm trying to think where they're meeting. Like I said, we've hosted at Bay Path, and I am mostly involved in the student leadership groups where we have professionals come in to do some of the trainings. We've been to, the universities of Massachusetts and universities in Connecticut. So, it's really right within our Massachusetts and Connecticut region. So if you're not in this region, again, you can look right on the IMA website and find which chapter would be closest to you. So in terms of the CMA exam, like I've been talking about, it really is just that extra credentialing that focuses particularly on the skills for managerial accountants, so working in internal accounting. It is made up of 2 exams, whereas the CPA is made up of 4 exams. But the main difference in my mind when I think about the CMA and the CPA is the CPA, 2 of the exams, one of them covers tax and one of them covers audit, because those are the traditional career paths for those going into public accounting, right? Tax or audit. The CMA does not get into that level of detail of what an external auditor or a tax accountant would need to know. So the CPA exam is made up of 2 exams, CPA 4. The other 2 sections, let's say that the CPA exam is made up of, I feel like there is a close connection to the 2 sections of the CMA exam, which is financial reporting and business decision making. The CPA has changed in 2024, so not going to get into it here. You can watch the session 2 video, but you know, to get it gets the CPA now. One of the 4th section lets you kind of choose a path. But when we think about the CMA, these are the skills that you need, again, to make decisions, to do the financial management, the financial planning and analysis control. So although the CPA does cover these elements, the CMA's focus is specifically on management accountants. So when I look through, and I always get the most up-to-date study materials to see, you know, what has changed between the exams, and the CMA really is designed for the decision makers, where the CPA is much more designed for, you know, audit, that compliance, regulation, things like that. So there's something to think about. The structure here we see, you can see the breakout a little bit more. The first exam is focused on the financial reporting, planning, and control. The second part is based more on that financial decision making. I will say the Masters of Science in Accounting program at Bay Path, the concentration in finance is very closely aligned with these 2 sections of the exam. So we get really into understanding the finance side that accountants need to know, right? So the concentration in finance at Bay Path in the Masters of Science in Accounting is not getting heavily into creating stock portfolios and, you know, helping people, you know, put together stock portfolios, right? That's not what the concentration does at Bay Path in the MSA program. What it is trying to do is make that connection between accounting and finance so that it doesn't have to be a choice. It's understanding that they are very much integrated, especially for managerial accountants, which is why when we have discussions with students who are looking to go into private accounting, right, this managerial accounting, the career or the best concentration is very likely the finance concentration in the MSA program because it's going to be focused more on these areas. So as I mentioned, and here it comes right from, I should have put the updated salary guide, but you can look on your salary survey, most recent, and I can say with almost certainty that we're going to see relatively similar statistics, that having the certification does correlate to higher compensation. And I actually wish that there was a slide that showed higher job level, right? But we can pretty much understand that higher compensation is in line with higher levels of job. So I really thought it was important for you to know this. I think a career track in this space for accounting, there is such of an opportunity for jobs. Again, I already mentioned, go right online to look for careers in accounting. Kind of, I would keyword some of those, you know, CFO, VP of finance jobs, just so you can see they are out there, what they require. Most at this point, if not all, are really looking for those with a master's degree in accounting. I would say, you know, 5-10 years ago, we might have seen it be more preferred, right? A preference to having a master's degree in accounting. And you can do your own research on this, but most are now requiring it, where you'll see a required, you know, master's level, usually in accounting, perhaps MBA, you know, but I think the more specific you can get with the career path that you want to go into, the better. And then that next level of differentiator comes with these certifications. And again, I mean, these are the statistics showing that higher compensation. So, you know, is it worth it? I think so. And I think, you know, it really can help set you apart from somebody who doesn't have it. So here are the requirements. There are the 2 exams. You do need a bachelor's degree, but it can be in any major. So as of right now, the CMA is not as particular as the CPA exam. The CPA requires 150 credits, so they're essentially requiring a master's degree to become a certified public accountant, and the CPA requires specific accounting courses, where the CMA doesn't. So if you are, you know, in a career-changing place, this could be, you know, a credential that might work for you, especially when your undergraduate degree in particular may not be in accounting, but you realize it's a career path that you want to move forward with. At Baypath, Rashida and I are constantly having conversations with students who may not have an undergraduate degree in accounting, and we really try to work with students to understand what those future goals are and how we can get you into a position that obtaining the Master's of Science in Accounting degree would make sense for you and you would be successful in completing it. And then, as we're mentioning here, these other credentials would be typically easier to pursue having the education background. But again, it's not required. To become certified, you do need 2 years in relevant work experience. So you would need to be working in you know, some type of accounting role to end up being certified. And they require an active membership in the Institute of Managerial Accountants to become certified. You would take the exam at a testing facility. So at a Prometric testing center or wherever, you know, it's a third-party site that you go to. They populate the exam on the computer. You could be sitting next to somebody who's, you know, taking a real estate test or even, you know, like ISO type tests. It's just a testing center. They offer the test in 3 different windows during these timeframes, and you can choose which part you want to take first, part 1 or part 2, and then they give the average completion time. Of course, there are costs associated with this. The membership fees just to the IMA, so you don't have to be a CMA to be a member in the IMA. Clearly a very big cost difference between being a student member and a professional member. So if you are a student member, you know, that fee I think is worth it. Professional members, hopefully if you are working in the industry, perhaps you could request that your employer consider paying part of this for you to become a member. To sit for the exam. So there's an entrance fee to start CMA program and then to sit for the exam. So, you know, it can get costly, but again, I think the investment of time and money for the outcome of having such a higher salary is worth it. Now, interestingly, with the CMA, they do allow students to sit for the CMA before even graduating from an undergraduate degree. So this is very, very different than the CPA. The CMA is typically a lot of the courses that you would have studied during an undergraduate accounting degree. I would say with any undergraduate accounting degree or master's of accounting degree, I have been through those and I've sat for the CPA exam, and you really need to put an effort of studying for these. certifications, I think I am not aware of many, if any, people who would just complete an undergraduate degree in accounting or even a master's degree in accounting and then just automatically go and sit for the CMA or the CPA. I will say that programs that are well designed, like Bay Path's undergraduate in accounting and master's of science in accounting, that are aligned with the CMA. So as I had already mentioned, the Bay Path MSA program, the concentration in finance is really meant to cover topics that you'll see on the CMA, but I would never, ever say that that's enough to sit for the CMA exam, right? You would still need to study on your own. And the amount of studying really depends on, how prepared you need to be successful taking an exam. But I will tell you, so I am not a CMA, I'm a CPA, and people who I would consider to be highly, highly intelligent needed to put in a significant amount of time studying in addition to undergraduate and graduate level degrees. So I don't want you to come away from this session and think, if you have an undergrad in accounting, you could just go and sit for the CMA. Some people could, but that success rate without studying is very, very low. So if you're looking for that advanced certification to build your skills, resume, earning potential, CMA could be what you are looking for. I had mentioned that as a student member of the CMA, there are a lot of opportunities that could come your way. If you are a student at Bay Path in the MSA program or even the undergraduate program, I can recommend you for an IMA scholarship that would allow you free CMA taking. So it would be free to take the exam if you were to get this scholarship. And if you can see here, this is a high level of scholarships that they give out to every school. So I am able to actually recommend up to 10 students. So as of now, I've never turned a student away for my recommendation for this scholarship. And then you do get some of the study materials they will give you, and then a discount on some of the other materials. So huge value there. So keep that in mind. And I will end my formal presentation now and open it up to any questions if you want to share them in the chat. I believe that this will be sent out to those who are in attendance. If you are watching this asynchronously, so you may be watching it after the live session, feel free, and even if you are watching it live, feel free to reach out directly to myself. I'm right on our website, Kara Stevens, or Rashida.
Yes.
With any questions that you have surrounding this career path, an MSA in accounting at Bay Path, these certifications that we've talked about throughout this accounting series, definitely reach out. I'm happy to talk to you to think through the career path that may be a good fit for you. I think part of the passion that I'd mentioned that I have in my position at Bay Path is being able to help students get into those positions that they really are looking to get into at the salaries that they're looking to have. So always happy to meet with you one-on-one to even, look at your own situation and future career goals. So thank you so much. Rashida, any questions on your end?
No, none over on this side. Definitely was interesting and definitely informative. I enjoyed it. Great information. And it's more information that I always pass out even more in detail. And I'll call you in if I need help. But definitely I enjoyed it. And thank you for all the information this evening.
Thank you so much for organizing and getting everyone together for this. So thank you. And again, for those on the call live, have a good rest of the evening. For those who are maybe watching this, again, asynchronously, I wish you well too, and hope to connect with you at some point in the future. Have a good night. Take care.
Have a good night.